Hi everyone, this is our online revision for BC 108, Economics in a Globalized World. Please take note of some things. Our exam is on 26th of February, 9:30 a.m. Now, please check your personalized timetable again this coming week. Because of the virus outbreak, it's likely that your original venue will be switched. Okay, so please check your personalized timetable again in the coming week. All right. Now, the topics coverage will be all topics will be tested. Now, these are the things that you should bring with you. Now, please take note that temperature taking is in place. So please come early to have your temperature taken, get the temperature sticker before you enter the venue. Or you can bring along your U-scan thermometer and use that. Now, if you don't have a temperature sticker, you will have to go and take a temperature and get the sticker, and there'll be no extra time given to you if the paper has already started. Okay, so please come earlier, take a temperature, and get the sticker before you enter the venue. Do take note that the sticker might drop out. All right, so please hang on to it. Just a disclaimer to tell you that whatever that we're going through in this online revision is not an indication that whatever that will come out. It's just a revision to ask you to take note of the important points. Now let's take a look at the GDP topic first. Now this is a circular flow of income showing you the withdrawals and injections. Okay, you should know what they are. Okay, we have already told you that in the mid-semester test, and you should know how income is being created by the interaction between the households and the firms. These are the calculation methods that you have already learned for your mid-sem test. Okay, so just remember what are the different methods, expenditure and income methods. Okay, how you convert real GDP to nominal GDP. Okay, now let's take a look at diagrams. Now you must be very sure how to shift the curves using the ADAS model. Now, the AD curve is shifted by these factors C, I, G, X, or M. Okay, go and refer to your notes again. We have a shifting chart, all right, for the ADS topic, which curve to shift which direction for any individual event. So please go and remember that clearly, all right? So any of these items changing, either increasing or decreasing, will shift the AD curve. All right. So if any of these items, C, I, G, or X going up, it will shift AD to the right. Okay. Take note, minus M is a minus, so it will shift the curve in the opposite direction. So the higher is the M, AD will shift to the left. Okay. So just take note that there's a lot of items inside AD, so just be careful. All right. C is for consumption by people like you and me. Okay, investment is by private firms or companies. G is by government. X and M are external parties. Okay. Now take note again. SRAS is shifted by a change in cost of production, usually by wages and oil price, maybe steel price. Okay, so cost of production must be the event. All right, and take note, students tend to make mistake with cost of production and SRAS. The higher the cost of production, SRAS will shift to the left. Okay, lower cost of production, SRAS shift right. All right, so please take note. This is the part that students tend to go wrong. Now, when you shift SRAS, take note it's only because these items are given to you. All right, it appears, and then you shift SRAS. All right, not any other events. Now, one of the regular mistakes that we see in the mid-sem test and after that, you see a lot of students when they draw ADAS, they always leave out the LRAS curve. Now, take note, when you draw ADAS, you always have three lines in them. Okay, don't leave out the LRAS. Okay, now take note also that when you shift LRAS to the left or to the right, SRAS must shift together in the same direction. Okay, so when you draw ADS, it's always with three lines. Don't leave LRAS out. But don't shift it as and when as you like. Okay, all these factors must be present. If we shift to the left, it must be a serious incident of war, natural disaster, all right, where you lose your factors of production, or when you have more factors of production. Okay, so don't shift your LRAS easily, but it should always be there, all right, as part of the ADAS diagram. Okay. Now, your LRAS can have a few starting points in terms of the initial equilibrium. All right, it can be at full employment output, it can be on the left, it can be on the right. Now, if it's on the right, that means that your equilibrium point is on the left side, is below full employment. LRAS measures full employment. So your equilibrium is on the left side, is below full employment. So you start with a recessionary gap. If your LRAS on the left side, your equilibrium is on the right side, that means it's higher than LRAS, it's above full employment. All right, and then you start off with an inflationary gap. Okay? Now, if you're asked to start from full employment output, all the lines will meet at the same point. Okay, this should be very familiar to you by now. All the initial equilibrium, all the starting points are clearly stated in the exam question. Okay, so please read the question carefully and start off with the correct initial equilibrium. Now, to recall how you handle ADS in general, okay, from the question you must pick up what is the initial equilibrium. This is given by the question, all right? So the equilibrium is at above, at, or below full employment output. This will be clearly stated, so read the question carefully. You must know which curve to shift in which direction, all right? So revise the ADS chapter and the shifting chart, which curve shift which direction, all right? You must match that. And then you conclude off with what happens to real GDP, price level, and unemployment level after you have shifted. Okay, so this is how you deal with ADS in general. Some of you are still quite weak in this, so do more practices. All right, so there are past year papers in LMS. Go and do them a few times. Okay. Moving on, this is the inflation rate formula. Just take CPI this year minus last year over last year times 100%. Okay, you have revised this for your MST previously. Yeah. Now, as a reminder, when you shift your curve and your price level goes up, okay, it's shown on the diagram, okay, by an upward movement of your price level. Okay, so your price level moves up. This is an indication of inflation. If it moves downwards, it will be a deflation. All right, so we read price changes on this axis, okay, and we read output on this axis. Okay. Now we call your unemployment rate calculation. Just take number of people who's unemployed over labor force times 100%. All right. As a revision, what are the types of unemployment? If there's a recession, all three will be present. Cyclical refers to people who lose their job during a recession. Plus, these two types of unemployment, which is always present, structural and frictional. Structural is a mismatch of skills where people become outdated. And frictional is when you have a short-term unemployment because of people graduating or changing jobs. Okay, moving on to fiscal policy, where you take on the role of the government to solve problems. Let's revise the budget positions of the government first. So the government budget comprises of revenue coming in and then expenditure. All right. So for the government, if revenue is more than expenditure, the excess becomes surplus that goes to the reserves. All right. Now, when you are having a budget deficit, that means your spending is more than your revenue. How do you finance a budget deficit? Okay, the first one option is that you finance from reserves. Okay, then you borrow. Borrow from who? Borrow from financial markets by selling bonds, or you borrow from other countries, or you borrow from IMF World Bank. All right. Now, the common mistake for students is to say that when you have a budget deficit, how do you finance it? You say that, oh, you tax more and then you spend less. Now, that is to prevent the problem from happening again. But now you're owing and you must settle the sum. Okay. So you settle the sum from financing from reserve and borrowing. Okay. Resolve problems from the position of the government. Okay, obviously you don't start from full employment output, you start off from below or above full employment output. All right, to show an expansionary fiscal policy for recession, okay, for recession, you start off from below full employment output, yeah, from point A. All right, so you're now on the left side of LRAS, that means you're in a recession. So what happens? So for expansionary fiscal policy, government increase spending, taxes fall, so AD rises. All right, we shift it fully back to full employment output. So your price level rises, real GDP rises, and unemployment falls. Okay? For contractionary fiscal policy is meant to deal with inflation. So you start off from above full employment output where you have an inflationary gap. So for contractionary fiscal policy, government spends less and tax more. So your AD shift back to full employment output. Okay, so price level falls, real GDP falls, and then your unemployment rises. Now, please remember what are the limitations of your discretionary fiscal policy that we have gone through earlier. What is the limitations to your expansionary and contractionary fiscal policy? They are mainly in the form of time lags, okay, the three time lags. Once you have recognition lag, there's a time needed to recognize a problem. Now, when economy goes into negative growth, we need 2 consecutive quarters or half a year to declare that there is a recession. Okay, so it takes time. All right, lawmaking like you go to parliament, you need to change your budget, spend more, or spend less, or tax more. All this needs time to make law in the parliament. Okay, so by the time law is made, it takes another period of time before the impact reach the economy. All right. So you need to remember what are the time lags, that are the limitations of fiscal policy. Okay, let's move on to money and banking, where we study how money is created from commercial bank lending. Okay, we call the formula that we taught you in tutorial. We take 1 over triple R, okay, to calculate the K money multiplier. And then we use a formula, new money created takes K times initial excess reserves. Okay, so please revise on that topic on how you calculate new money creation. Okay. Now, monetary policy is a very important topic in the exam because the answer is so long. All right. Now, you must read the question very carefully whether is it a recession where you use expansionary monetary policy as a solution, or is it inflation where you use contractionary monetary policy as a solution. All right. Don't get it wrong. The answers are completely opposite of each other. All right. So don't get it wrong. Now, usually when you draw the diagrams, the triple diagram, you start off from the money supply diagram changing, and then it goes on to the investment diagram and then ADS. It's a triple diagram. Draw all the 3 diagrams, please. Okay. Very often the tools are asked, how do you activate this various monetary policy? You must know what are the tools that allow you to do that. Okay. When you draw the diagram, the money demand and supply curve is on the left, the investment diagram is on the right. The first 2 diagrams must be drawn side by side in this manner because the investment level changes with interest rate, and the change in interest rate is a result of changes in the first diagram. All right, so this diagram, the second one is taking changes from the first. So it must be drawn side by side in this way. Okay, so go and revise in your notes again. All right. Now you can draw the ADS, the following ADS diagram as the next diagram, or draw it somewhere else. It's fine with that. But the first 2 diagrams must be drawn side by side in this manner. Okay. So for expansionary monetary policy, you start off with below full employment output. You have a recessionary gap, and then you shift AD to the right. Okay, so this part, I think you guys are quite clear about that. Okay, so it's a triple diagram for the monetary policy diagram questions. So this is what we call the transmission mechanism. Okay, the transmission mechanism is a triple diagram that transmit effects into the economy. Okay. For contractionary, the opposite, you shift money supply to the left, so interest rate goes up, investment level falls because it becomes more expensive to borrow money. So AD will shift to the left. You activate this when you are producing above full employment output, where you have an inflation problem. You do this to bring down the price level. Okay. Now, so remember how to answer your monetary policy questions. Okay. So from the money supply changing, all right, when central bank does something, because using these tools, all right, your interest rate will change, and then investment level will change, and then AD will change. All right. So these are very long kind of answers. So you must remember them, how one leads to another. Okay, so revise your tutorial again and take a look at the past year papers to see how you can answer the questions. Okay, it's a long answer required, but there's a lot of marks that's given. Okay, so make sure you revise this chapter carefully. Let's move on to foreign exchange. Now, any currency can be given to you in the exam, so we may not give you Sing dollar. It can be any currency. Okay, just remember the home side is controlling the supply because they have the currency. Foreigners are always controlling the demand because they don't have the currency. Okay, now when I was revising this topic in classes last week, many students could not understand what is the foreign exchange market or the forex market. Okay, this is where we all exchange money when we want to leave the home country or foreigners coming in from foreign countries when they want to come in to buy your things or to invest in your country. They go to this foreign exchange market to change money. All right, so we understand this forex market is all the money changing activities in the country, all right, for that particular currency. Okay, now we have this example of interest rates. When your interest rate is higher, okay, people want to invest in your country. So for the foreigners, they want to invest more in your country, so demand of your currency will go up. Okay, so demand curve shift to the right and your country's currency will appreciate. Okay, so when more people want your currency, more external people want your currency, all right, they will go to the money exchanger and demand for your currency, and your demand for your currency will go up, leading to an appreciation of your currency. And that's because your interest rate at the home side is now higher. Okay, now the reverse happens when the home side interest rate is lower than foreign. In this case, the foreign side is giving a higher interest rate. So what will happen? The home side will start to move their money out of the home country because they want to invest in a foreign side, because the foreign side is paying a higher interest rate. So home side will sell more of their home currency to invest over in the foreign side. All right, because foreign side is giving higher interest rate compared to the home side. So home side will sell more of their currency, supply curve increases, all right, because you want to get over to the foreign side to invest. So this will result in more people selling the currency and a depreciation of the currency. Okay, now the tutorial for foreign exchange is online. You guys can go and take a look, all right, and revise these changes in demand and supply. Okay. Okay, let's move on to balance of payments, the BOP, and international trade. Now, these are the accounts in the balance of payments, the current account and the capital account. Now, you must know what they measure. The current account measures goods and services in and out. Capital account measures capital in and out. So, depending on what event or situation we give you, you must know how to allocate them to these accounts and how would they change. So, if a country is exporting more, okay, maybe merchandise trade balance will improve. Okay, maybe balance of services will improve if the country is exporting more services. Okay, if more money is flowing in, capital inflow will improve, capital account will improve as well. Okay, so you must know which of these accounts is measuring what and match with any events or situation that we might give you. Okay, now just take note, when your BOP has a surplus, that means your inflow is more than outflow. So your country could be exporting more than importing, or there's a higher capital inflow than outflow. You have a surplus that will be added to your official reserves. Okay, so when you have a BOP deficit, you could be importing more than you export, or there's more capital outflow than inflow. You have a deficit, you must finance from reserves or borrow from central banks, World Bank, IMF. Okay, now the way that you deal with a BOP deficit is the same as you deal with a fiscal deficit. Now there are a few ways to restrict trade. Tariff and quotas have diagrams which you must know. Let's take a look at them. Okay. Now for tariff, it's just a tax that's imposed on imports that's coming into the country. Now for tariff, the supply curve of the imports will shift to the left. Okay, so this will lead to a higher equilibrium price and a lower equilibrium quantity of the import. Okay, now you're not required to give the tariff revenue unless we ask you. Okay, so for a tariff, the standard way that you deal with it is you shift the supply curve to the left, then higher equilibrium price and lower equilibrium quantity. Now for quota, it is a quantity restriction. All right, so the diagram will look a little bit different. Your supply curve becomes SQ, which is a vertical curve based on the quota that is decided by the government. Now, usually that's lower than your equilibrium quantity of the imports. Okay, so equilibrium price goes up and then equilibrium quantity falls to the quota. You're not required to give the importers profits unless we ask you for it. Okay, now you can tell that tariff and quotas have very similar outcomes. It causes the price of the imports to go up and the quantity of the imports to fall. Okay, but what's different is that tariff allows the government to gain something from it, and quota is more effective in limiting the quantity of the product. Okay, that's coming in. All right, so you must learn how to tell this difference. All right, and to know which diagram we want you to draw. Now that's the end of our online revision. Now, there's online lectures for all other topics on LMS. Go and take a look at them if you want to revise on any of the topics. Now, please go and take a look at the past year papers as well. We have posted them there, all right, so that you are familiar with the paper structure. Okay, now there is another online video for the last topic, which is tomorrow's economy in the globalized world. You can take a look at that as well. All right, so good luck for exam. See you next time.